Will Tony and Ziva finally return for a major crossover event? The possibility has become one of the hottest topics in the NCIS universe. With Michael Weatherly and Cote de Pablo returning together in the spinoff, many viewers believe the door has never been more open for the beloved pair to step back into the world that first made them television legends. Will NCIS Season 24 finally bring back Tony and Ziva for a major crossover? For more than a decade, few television relationships have created the kind of emotional connection that Tony DiNazzo and Ziva David built on NCIS. Some television couples arrive with fireworks from the beginning. Others slowly earn the audience's affection over many years. Tony and Ziva belonged to the second category. Their story unfolded one glance, one joke, one argument, and one sacrifice at a time. Fans watched them grow from reluctant partners into something much deeper. That is why, even today, years after both characters left the original series, viewers still talk about them. The possibility of a crossover in NCIS Season 24 has become one of the biggest questions surrounding the franchise. It is not simply about bringing back familiar faces. It is about revisiting a story that helped define an era of television. The NCIS universe has changed dramatically over the years. Characters have come and gone, teams have evolved, entire spin-offs have been launched. Yet the popularity of Tony and Ziva has remained remarkably strong. Many longtime viewers still remember the early days of their partnership. Tony was playful, impulsive, and often immature. Ziva was disciplined, mysterious, and fiercely capable. On paper, they should not have worked together. Instead, they became one of the most beloved duos in television crime drama. Their chemistry was never forced. It grew naturally through hundreds of scenes. Sometimes it appeared in moments of humor. Sometimes it emerged during dangerous missions. Sometimes it appeared in complete silence. That slow-burning relationship became one of the emotional foundations of NCIS. As the years passed, fans watched the pair face impossible challenges. They survived attacks. They suffered heartbreaking losses. They struggled with trust. They wrestled with their own feelings. Yet somehow, they always found their way back to each other. The emotional investment from viewers became enormous. When Ziva left the series, audiences felt the absence immediately. When Tony later departed, another chapter closed. For many fans, NCIS never quite felt the same. The story seemed unfinished. Questions remained. Feelings remained. Hope remained. Years later, viewers received one of the biggest surprises in franchise history when Ziva returned. Her return reminded audiences why the character had become such an important part of the series. It also reignited interest in the relationship that had captivated millions of people. Then came the announcement that truly changed everything. Tony and Ziva would return together, not for a single episode, not for a brief guest appearance, but for an entire series centered around their lives. The announcement generated excitement throughout the NCIS community. Social media exploded with reactions. Longtime viewers celebrated. Newer fans became curious about the legendary partnership they had heard so much about. The spin-off gave audiences something they had wanted for years, the chance to spend meaningful time with Tony and Ziva again. The series explored their complicated lives after the events of NCIS. Instead of simply presenting a fairy tale ending, it examined the realities of their relationship. They were parents. They carried emotional scars. They had unresolved issues. They were trying to build a future while dealing with the weight of the past. Many viewers appreciated that approach. The story felt mature. It acknowledged that life is rarely simple, even for characters who have survived extraordinary adventures. At the same time, the series reminded audiences of the qualities that made Tony and Ziva special. Their banter remained sharp. Their loyalty remained powerful. Their connection remained undeniable. As fans watched the spin-off unfold, another question naturally emerged. Could this lead to a crossover with the main NCIS series? The idea immediately captured imaginations. After all, television history is filled with crossover events that became major cultural moments. Viewers enjoy seeing separate storylines collide. They enjoy watching beloved characters interact again. Most importantly, they enjoy feeling that different parts of a fictional universe are connected. The NCIS franchise is uniquely positioned for that kind of event. Over the years, it has built a vast network of characters and stories. Many former agents remain alive within the fictional world. Relationships continue to exist even when characters are off-screen. Because of that, a crossover involving Tony and Ziva feels entirely possible. There are countless ways writers could make it happen. Perhaps an international investigation could force Tony and Ziva to seek help from NCIS. Maybe an old enemy could resurface. Perhaps a case connected to their past could suddenly threaten multiple agencies. The possibilities are nearly endless. What makes the idea especially appealing is the emotional potential. A crossover would not simply be about solving a crime. It would be about reconnecting people. Imagine Tony walking back into NCIS headquarters. Imagine the reactions from former colleagues. Imagine the memories that would flood back. For longtime viewers, such scenes would carry enormous emotional weight. The same applies to Ziva. Her journey has always been one of the most complex stories in the franchise. She has experienced loss, danger, betrayal, and redemption. Seeing her interact with familiar faces again could create some of the most powerful moments in recent NCIS history. Many fans also believe a crossover would provide an opportunity to celebrate the franchise itself. NCIS has become one of television's longest-running success stories. Few dramas survive for so many years. Even fewer continue attracting loyal audiences across multiple generations. A major crossover could serve as a tribute to that legacy. It could honor the past while also looking toward the future. Interestingly, discussions about crossover possibilities have not been limited to fans. Interviews surrounding the Tony and Ziva project have repeatedly touched on the subject. Various conversations involving the creative team have suggested that crossover opportunities are at least being considered, even if no official plans have been announced. Collider. That alone has encouraged speculation. Television audiences have learned that when creators begin discussing possibilities, those possibilities sometimes become reality. Of course, practical challenges exist. Scheduling is always a factor. Story development requires careful planning. Writers must ensure that any crossover serves the narrative rather than existing solely for nostalgia. Fans are surprisingly good at recognizing the difference. They do not simply want familiar faces. They want meaningful storytelling. Fortunately, Tony and Ziva offer exactly that. Their history provides emotional depth that few television characters possess. Every conversation carries years of context. Every reunion carries years of meaning. Every smile carries years of memories. That emotional richness is difficult to manufacture. It can only develop through long-term storytelling. NCIS spent years building that foundation. The reward is a pair of characters who continue to matter deeply to audiences. Another reason crossover speculation remains strong is the changing nature of television itself. Modern franchises increasingly embrace interconnected storytelling. Audiences have become accustomed to characters moving between different series. Streaming platforms have accelerated that trend. Viewers no longer see individual shows as isolated experiences. They see entire universes. The NCIS franchise has already expanded significantly. A crossover involving Tony and Ziva would feel like a natural evolution of that approach. It would demonstrate that all corners of the franchise remain connected. It would also create exciting opportunities for newer viewers. Some younger fans discovered NCIS long after Tony and Ziva originally appeared. A crossover could introduce those viewers to the characters in a fresh way. At the same time, longtime fans would enjoy the emotional payoff. That balance is difficult to achieve, yet Tony and Ziva are uniquely positioned to accomplish it. Part of their enduring popularity comes from how relatable their relationship feels. Despite extraordinary circumstances, their struggles often reflect real human experiences. They have dealt with trust. They have dealt with fear. They have dealt with distance. They have dealt with uncertainty. Those themes resonate because they are universal. Viewers recognize pieces of themselves within the characters. As a result, audiences remain invested in their happiness. They want to see them succeed. They want to see them find peace. They want to see them finally enjoy the life they fought so hard to build. A crossover could contribute to that ongoing journey. Rather than revisiting old wounds, it could showcase how far the characters have come. It could highlight growth. It could celebrate resilience. It could remind viewers why they cared in the first place. Fan communities continue discussing these possibilities daily. Online forums remain filled with theories. Some viewers imagine a multi-episode event. Others envision a surprise appearance. Some hope for a season-long storyline. Others simply want one unforgettable reunion scene. What unites all these ideas is enthusiasm. People still care. Years later, they still care. That level of devotion is rare in television. It speaks to the quality of the characters and the performances that brought them to life. Michael Weatherly and Cote DePablo played a major role in creating that connection. Their chemistry became one of the defining elements of NCIS. Many successful television shows feature talented actors. Only a handful create partnerships that audiences remember for decades. Tony and Ziva belong to that select group. Whether a crossover ultimately happens remains unknown. Television plans change constantly. Creative decisions evolve. Networks adjust strategies. Announcements arrive unexpectedly. Yet the possibility feels more realistic now than it has in years. The existence of the Tony and Ziva spin-off alone has transformed the conversation. Characters who once seemed permanently separated from the main series are now active again. That changes everything. It reminds fans that television history is full of surprising returns. Characters come back. Stories continue. Journeys evolve. Sometimes the moments that seem impossible become reality. For now, viewers continue watching, hoping, and speculating. They examine interviews, they analyze storylines, they share theories. Most importantly, they remember. They remember the first time Tony and Ziva worked together. They remember the jokes. They remember the arguments. They remember the sacrifices. They remember the love story that unfolded over so many years. Those memories help explain why crossover rumors continue generating excitement. This is not simply nostalgia. It is emotional investment. It is the result of storytelling that connected deeply with audiences. And as long as that connection exists, the question will remain alive. Will NCIS Season 24 finally bring Tony and Ziva back for a major crossover? No one outside the franchise knows for certain. But for the first time in a very long time, fans can look at the situation and believe the possibility feels real. In television, sometimes hope is enough to keep viewers watching. And when it comes to Tony and Ziva, hope has always been one of the most powerful parts of the story.